An early history of social comparison theory. Confucius say, when you encounter an admirable man, emulate his example. When you encounter an unworthy man, examine inwardly whether or not you are like him. Confucius say, when walking with two people, among them there is bound to be one who is worthy of emulating. I will select his good attributes and learn from him, and his bad attributes to inspect myself and correct my faults. Social comparison theory explains the reasons behind the idea that people evaluate their own opinions, values, achievements, and abilities by comparison with others. Social comparison theory started in 1944 with the Level of Aspiration paper by Kurt Lewin and his colleagues. Lewin and his student Leon Festinger examined an experimental paradigm to investigate goal setting while minimizing extraneous or confounding factors. By the 1940s, a fair amount of research had accumulated on the problem. For example, Festinger varied whether undergraduates were given performance scores of high school students or of graduate students. They appeared to be motivated to perform the same as those of the same educational and intellectual status of themselves. Stan Schechter's work on affiliation in the 1950s further developed the theory. Lewin asked Festinger to direct a study of housing satisfaction for two housing projects. Festinger asked graduate students Stanley Schechter and Kurt Bach to work with him. They discovered that functional proximity determined who would be friends with whom. Those who are spatially isolated tend to have the most deviant attitudes, despite being randomly assigned their housing units. From results such as these, Festinger and his students developed a series of propositions. They then tested these hypotheses in a series of true experiments, culminating in Festinger's 1950 theory of informal social communication. The special issue of the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology in 1966 provided an immense boost to social comparison theory. Prior to the publication of the special issue of the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology, most of the major textbooks in social psychology were not even mentioning social comparison theory. Jerry Soules and Richard Miller were two young social scientists at Georgetown University who were looking for a way to kickstart their careers. They bravely undertook an edited volume on social comparison processes with no editorial experience or network ties to the Festinger-Schechter group. Many of the chapters took positions questioning Festinger's theory, and thus opened the area to fruitful disagreement. For further reading on the history of social comparison theory from the 1970s through to the 2020s, I recommend A History of Social Comparison Theory by Jerry Soules et al. My references are as follows.